Hi, and welcome to Room of Rock with Ted and I. Now this time in the Room of Rock, we're going to be taking a look at our 1970s vintage Electro-Harmonix Hot Tubes Valve Overdrive simulator, which is a bit of a mouthful. Interestingly, this thing is mains powered. So, if that interests you, hang around. Well, if you like what we do here in the Room of Rock, please think about giving us the old thumbs up and maybe even think about subscribing. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to young Teddy boy there, as you know. And have you got any vintage gear kicking around that you haven't used for ages that you might think it's worth dusting off and trying to see if it's as good as you remember or if it's as bad as you remember? Let us know in the comments. It's always interesting and we always read them all. The reason we decided to do this video was we were watching another channel on YouTube, JHS Pedals, and the chap there that does it is really good, and he's got a massive collection of vintage effects pedals, and he's obviously a manufacturer of pedals. And he did a video called The Most Underrated Electro-Harmonix Pedals, and one of them was the Hot Tubes, and the one he had was the nano version, the current one, which is a reissue, which is a small one. And he said he didn't have one of the original mains powered ones, and when you see his collection of pedals, I thought that was quite amazing. So I thought, well, I remember I've got one of those somewhere. So like my colour sound pedal, my wah Fuzz swell, it was gathering dust in the back of the cupboard here in the Room of Rock. So we've pulled it out, we've dusted it off, we've cleaned the pots up on it so it doesn't crackle and offend, and we'll plug it in and you can have a listen, see what you think of it. What I will do is I'll also show you some pictures of the insides of the pedal, because when I had it apart to clean the pots up and that, I took one or two pictures just for reference and interest, so you can see how it was put together all those years ago. As I mentioned, I opened up the unit to clean all the pots and the switches. And one thing that was obvious when you open up the case is just how much free space there is in there. Electro-Harmonix also made something called the Attack Decay, which was a tape reverse simulator, and that used the same case as this. Now whether that had a far larger circuit board, and that's the reason there's so much room in there. You can see the mains transformer, and under the yellow and green tape is a fuse. Interestingly, the shafts on the pots are colour coded. Now whether that was for ease of assembly, indicating different values stroke positions on the circuit board, or if it's just the way they came from the manufacturer, is hard to know. If you look carefully, you can see a couple of chips mounted to the board, practically hidden by the pots, and also you can see a transistor there hiding away under the right hand pot. Now on the reverse of the board there's a capacitor mounted, which almost looks like a bit of an afterthought, which is a bit of a strange way to go about it really. What I'll do now, I'll bring the camera in a bit closer and show you the control layout so you can see how it all works. Oh, and you might have noticed over my shoulder we've got snow here in the Room of Rock. The video's being shot in February and we're getting a dusting of snow. Well, hopefully with the camera in a bit closer you can see a better view of the control layout. Interestingly, if you look at it side on, it's a very funny shape, the pedal. So the input and output jacks, which are here, they face up at 45 degrees when you're plugged into them. So you've got your input jack here, you've got a direct out which is unaffected by the distortion, and then you've got your overdrive out here. Now I think that would work well going back to when this pedal was in manufacture in the 70s. Pretty well every amplifier you bought would have had more than one input into it because they were used to more people plugging into them back then. So you could have plugged into two inputs on your amplifier and balanced the dirty and the dry sound to get a fuller overdriven sound. So that would have probably been quite a useful feature. I believe they've dropped that now from the current reissue nano version. I assume that most amplifiers you buy nowadays are single input, unless you're buying reissues of older amplifiers. But the modern Marshalls, the modern Fenders are single input, so that would be less useful. Then over here you've got a tone bypass switch, so you can bring the tone control in and out of circuit. You've got your foot switch here for bypassing, and I'm pretty sure it isn't a true bypass. I think that with the circuit disengaged you are losing a little bit of the top end, which was a common thing with pedals of this era. The things of true bypass and buffer bypassing were yet to become common practice. And then down here you've got your standard volume, your tone control and your overdrive levels, so a bit like a tube screamer in terms of the controls. Interestingly, it's like the colour sound wah fuzz swirl pedal that I talked about in another video. The 0 is with a pointer over here and maximum is there. So if you were to set your controls at 12 o'clock, you'd actually be setting them facing into the middle of the effects pedal. So that's, I've now turned the overdrive up to full and the volume down to minimum. So if you were standing here looking down on the pedal, if you didn't know it, you would think that was set to maximum, but it's actually turned off, it's on minimum. So maximum is up there. Bit of a strange setup. Well, I think the first thing we'll show you the clean sound we've got going on, and that's the clean sound straight into the amplifier, not into the effect and bypass. So that's our clean sound. And what I'll do now, I'll put the effect in and we'll have a quick listen to that with it bypassed and see if you do think it's affecting the sound at all. Now this is with the effect in the chain but with bypass. Now I definitely think it's taken a little bit of the top end off the signal. Not a huge amount, but I definitely think it is. Well, I've started off, I'm on the neck pickup at the moment. I've started off with the controls midpoint, so what you call 12 o'clock, but I've brought the volume back a bit so there's not too much of a boost in volume making it overdrive the microphones. So the sound I'm getting now is this. Bridge pickup. What I think I'll do, I'll move the drive up a bit and back the tone off a bit. So see what we've got now. To adjust the controls again. I need to bring the volume up a whisker. Push the gain up a little bit more. What I've done there is turn the drive right down and the volume up to act more as a boost. Push drive up a little bit more. So now we're on maximum overdrive, and I've backed the volume back a bit, but it is going to be a bit noisy when I turn the volume on because I'm so near the amplifier. I think that's starting to get into the terms of, or the realms of fuzz now, so it's starting to get that kind of fizzy edge to it. What I thought I'd do now is throw some humbuckers at it in the shape of my Epiphone Les Paul Ultra. So let's hear what that sounds like. So here's the clean sound with humbuckers. That's the bridge position. Now I definitely, knowing the guitar and knowing the amplifier, I know that that is taking a bit of the top end bite out of the signal. That's obviously with the effects still in the effects chain. So let's set the controls flat. And engage the overdrive. To the neck. Right. I think that's definitely got a fuzzy kind of rasp going on there. Now that's full overdrive. Well, that's given you a bit of a look at our Electro-Harmonix Vintage Hot Tubes Tube Amp Overdrive Simulator. And I think, to be fair, it's better than I remember it being. It's going through a better amp now than it would have been when I first got it. So maybe having a valve Marshall behind it's helping. And maybe some of the gain settings are pushing the preamp on the Marshall into overdrive, so you're getting a more natural distortion. But no, I think it's good. I prefer the lower gain settings myself, with the volume up higher, so it is pushing the front end of the Marshall, rather than when you start cranking the overdrive up, so that it's actually the unit itself that's doing more of the distortion. I think that becomes more fuzzy, which, if that's the sound you like, that kind of 60s fuzz, then I think it's on the edge of that. It's not full out fuzz, but it does work towards that. Anyway, I hope that's proved interesting, and we'll see you again soon in the Room of Rock with Ted and I.